White Belt Wednesday.
White Belt Wednesday.
White Belt Wednesday.
White Belt New Year's Resolution Wednesday.
Jiu-Jitsu resolutions. Are they good? They bad? What do you do?
So, whenever you set any goal, right? They need to be, there's like that acronym. Right? Smart, specific, measurable,
attainable,
realistic,
and time sensitive, like having like a distinct
timeline for it. Yeah. Because everybody's New Year's resolution looks something like, I want to get better at arm bars, or I want to get better at top game.
Okay.
And then it's like, how are you going to measure that? Right? So, shout out to Kevin Sheridan, who is one of my first jiu-jitsu instructors, and he used to sit a bunch of like 20-year-olds once a year and like explain goal setting to us and make us work through what SMART goals were, and he would make us have specific jiu-jitsu goals we wanted to hit that year, specific like life goals, or whatever, like we were trying to buy a house or we're trying to like finish college, whatever. And at the time, I thought it was like, kind of like, man, it's like, can we go back to drilling arm bars kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the older I get, the more I appreciate the time Kevin put in all of us to do that kind of stuff. So one of the things I've learned is a lot of times, especially like young jiu-jitsu guys, one of my goals was always like win the New York Open, right? And I was a purple belt at the time. I remember it took me like 3 years to win it. First year, I showed up late. I came into the building, like we got lost on our way to the venue. I came into the building, they're like calling my name. It's like, oh, this is the last call. Nelson Puentes, report to number 3 or you're disqualified. So I'm like running, I find the guy, and the guy's like, why are you wearing your gi? And I'm like, I just got here. The guy's like, well, you're fighting now. So like you need to be in the scale in 2 minutes or you're disqualified. So whatever, I lose that match by an advantage. It just hurts so bad. I trained like an entire year to get back to, I want to win the New York Open. And then the following year, I lost in the semis. And then a year after that, I finally won it. So the problem with a goal, like winning the New York Open or winning the World Championships or winning your local NAGA, is you're thinking about the outcome instead of the process. So if you have a great year and you're training consistently, you're working on things you need to be working on in order to improve your jiu-jitsu, you're keeping your weight down, you're eating healthy, you're doing strength training outside of jiu-jitsu, you're drilling your A game for competition. So you're doing all the right things and you're getting better and better and better. But then you go to the New York Open and a world champion from outside the area shows up, or you get the stomach flu, or like what happened to me the 1 year and I just showed up late and didn't get a chance to warm up, and like all these things like snowball to get in the way. It's kind of like a wasted goal because you were doing all these right things, and then you make yourself feel bad because you didn't win the tournament you wanted to win. But if you focus about the process, you can see that as a win even if you win or don't. So the older I got, I realized I needed to go to tournaments because that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do that weekend. So if I wanted to go to Pans, I wanted to go to Worlds. I just wanted to go to Worlds to compete. But it was all about the process of getting ready for that trip where I was really dialing down my diet. I was really dialing in my conditioning. I was getting all the sparring rounds I needed to. I was doing like all the specific competition drills and paying attention to the meta game and like making sure it's like, oh, like people are doing berimbolo. So I need to counter the berimbolo. People are doing a lot of like the spider lassos, and when they get to the lasso, I need to make sure I can get out of the lasso. So you just focus on the process, so that way you get better, and you don't put like all these feelings and all this effort and all this relying on how you do this one specific day instead of the year.
Yeah. And the goals might even be smaller. For some people, it'll be like, I'm going to tap that guy at the gym, my nemesis. I'm going to beat that guy fine. But that guy's training too. That guy's getting better too, hopefully.
That's when the arms race happening. Like those are always fun when there's like 2 blue belts, so like at similar levels, and then this one guy figures out this pass that works on the other guy, and the other guy's like, okay, he's doing this thing, so I'm gonna put it in a lasso. So now the other guy has to figure out how to fight lasso, and then he's just like that. Like that's how you see those guys climbing all the time.
Yeah, and it's good. You want to have like somebody who pushes you in the gym. You don't, it's like this funny thing. You don't want to measure all your success against another person because that can make you go crazy. But it is good to like have a sense of how well am I doing against the room. That guy used to always just beat the crap out of me, and now I actually can defend myself. So like you'll still make those judgments whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
But when you make it your goal and you really hyper focus on it, it can get kind of like weird and toxic for you and for the gym if you're just like, I gotta tap these people, I gotta beat these. So having these goals that are more like, I'm gonna be in the gym this many times a week for, the first month, and I'm gonna have a goal of at the end of every class, I'm gonna put in an extra round of positional sparring, or I'm gonna do this many reps of my favorite move. Those are things that you can really do and will improve you, but they're not tied up in all this other weird stuff that you can fail in weird ways or you can never really succeed at because it's like totally outside your control. What do you say, Hillary?
For New Year's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just putting all I can into the academy now. And just being back, it's still like I'm recovering from having our second child and still coming back into the real world after COVID. And
so Jiu-Jitsu goals look different for you this year.
So it is different, just giving my best self, I think, now, not just for competition, but for my students and having new students and setting a good example, I think is just slowing things down for me.
So what would you recommend people do though?
I know, just like taking it one day at a time and just making sure I'm here when I say I'm going to be here and I keep coming back.
That's really the secret to all this is like
actually
showing up again. Like that's really what gets you there, not all the other stuff. Just showing up with a good attitude.
Yeah, and make sure you keep yourself in the game. Sometimes, especially in January, a lot of guys are like, this is when I finally do it. And they go from training maybe once a week to I'm doing double sessions every day. And then 2 weeks into it, they get an overuse injury because their body is just not used to the volume of training.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, I guess, is trying not to burn out and doing too much too fast in the new year. It's really just making sure I'm here and taking it slow and same, just like even our lessons, like really focusing on the lesson, like all the little details and not doing an information overload.
Yeah, just build slowly.
And just building things back up again.
And like Matt was saying, like good goals are, I'm going to go to Jiu-Jitsu this many times a week. And then you keep in a spreadsheet. There's a bunch of apps on the phone about building habits you can use. Another one I always like is whatever you're working on, just make it a goal. I'm going to go for this at least once every roll.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, let's say it's a specific triangle setup, it's a specific back take, it's a specific scape. Especially, I like the scape ones because you don't have to tell people you're working on that. So you can just let people pass your guard in order to work out. So you work your side control scapes. But if you're doing something every roll, you get to see your progress because you go from like never hitting it to one out of 5 will work to then it's 1 out of 2. Then it starts like really progressing. So you really feel good, especially with the positional escape stuff. When like your training partner suddenly can just hold you in side control, especially early on, like Jiu-Jitsu is not that fun when this big purple belt just grabs you, smashes your legs down, gets you in side control, and takes 5 minutes to get a Kimura, like dig a Kimura out. So being able to escape and survive that positions, I think, especially early on, like white and blue belt, like you should really be working towards that because then it's just more fun when you actually get to play guard and do cool things and go for sweeps and go for submissions instead of just being like this underneath a purple belt.
I'm going to throw out all our discussion. Here's your resolution. You got to start a round under side control every time you train this year. There you go.
1 round.
Throw away the rest of the resolutions. That's it. Start under side control 1 round at least every time you train.
Yeah, and especially like this is great early on, but then sometimes you get those guys that get like this really good open guard and they can spider and lasso everybody, and like the guys in their gym can't pass their guard, but then they go to compete and like somebody gets them out of it, and it's like, oh shit, I have not put reps on this in months. Right?
Right.
All right.
You got it.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.